Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about the events of 9/11, and I'm going to try to persuade you to not believe everything that you hear on the media. When we're kids, everybody tries to beat the questions out of you. When you ask your parents too many questions, you say why too many times, and they eventually get sick of it and say stop asking questions. And to a kid that does a lot, so they do stop asking questions, and then we just accept things the way that we hear them, which we should not do. Most importantly, this occurred with the events of 9/11. We were told that 4 planes hit 2 towers, the Pentagon, and a field in Pennsylvania, but I'm here to tell you that I do not believe that is what happened. Things just don't add up with the story that we were given. The first thing that brought my attention to this was the fact that George Bush lied about this on several occasions. At the time of the events, he was sitting in a classroom reading a book to children. Now, he said that he saw the first tower being hit on television, on the classroom TV, but the first tower getting hit was not shown on TV until later that evening when it was on the news, because news reporters weren't looking at the towers at the time. Only the second tower being hit was live. So that right there kind of doesn't add up in my head. Another thing was that at the same time, the kids were reading off words on the chalkboard: kite, hit, steal, plane, must. That's just really fishy to me. And you can watch a video about this on YouTube by High Impact Flicks. He has some very good stuff on 9/11. Later, George Bush stated in an interview that there were explosives, but according to the 9/11 Commission report, the planes hitting the towers, the jet fuel caused the steel to melt, which is what in turn made the buildings collapse. However, jet fuel burns at a maximum of 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, and steel takes at least 2750 degrees minimum to burn. So that doesn't add up either. And if George Bush stated that there were explosives, then doesn't that show that he knew something about it? Another thing that doesn't add up is Osama bin Laden. He wasn't even there at the time of the attack. He was in a Pakistani hospital thousands of miles away, but somehow he managed to control all of this going on with a satellite phone and laptop that the U.S. they had detected and knew everything about. That doesn't make sense. And then for years afterwards, they kept trying to chase him, and they'd find him, and then once they got to the spot, he wouldn't be there. That doesn't add up to me. Another thing is the World Trade Center 7. Now, in a Ron Paul video that I watched, it showed that the 20 minutes before it even collapsed, the media reported that it had collapsed. A whole 20 minutes before it even collapsed to the ground. Now, the World Trade Center 7 wasn't even struck by a plane. It looked like a complete demolition. Why would they report it 20 minutes early? That doesn't add up. Another thing is the Pentagon. 83 video recordings were confiscated by the FBI a day or two after 9/11, after the Pentagon was hit on the first floor by a plane. It was clearly a bomb. If 83 videos were taken and the only one that was shown was a 5-second clip with stuff taken out of it, why would they do that if they weren't hiding anything? And also at the same time, they were working on the $2.3 trillion that they found missing the day before. Where did that money go? It probably funded the whole thing. The field in Pennsylvania, there was nothing found. No airplane, no bodies. There were pieces of steel, metal, whatever, that made it appear like an airplane could have crashed. But many reporters said that it just looked like a hole in the ground with pieces dropped to it to make it look like an accident. Now, no bodies or anything were found, and not even a black box. Every single Boeing plane, at least, has 2 black boxes, which are sound recordings that are in the plane that are virtually indestructible. If those weren't found, and yet there was burnt cash still intact and found on Ground Zero, how would those black boxes not be found that are virtually indestructible? Also, at the same time on Ground Zero, the cleanup, the rubble from Ground Zero was removed and destroyed immediately. That's fishy to me. A couple hours afterwards, the passport of Muhammad Atta was found just a few blocks from Ground Zero. That's a little too coincidental for me. He was the leader on one of the planes that crashed into the North Tower, I believe. And they just found his passport perfectly intact a couple blocks away. That doesn't make sense. Also, with Muhammad Atta, 2 years prior to the events of 9/11, the Pentagon, a man in the Pentagon was ordered to destroy 2.5 terabytes worth of information on Muhammad Atta. And that is a lot of information. During the time of Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, during that whole scandal, there was $62 million spent trying to investigate all the details as to whether he committed those acts or not. However, after the biggest attack on our country in the history of America, only $15 million were spent trying to figure it out. 62 was spent on Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, and $15 million was spent on 3,000 deaths in our country because of a terrorist attack. Why? One theory about 9/11 is that there were no planes, that it was all just missiles and bombs. And I actually believe that to be true. The day before 9/11, the stock market, people put in their stocks saying that American airline prices would go down. And of course, after 9/11, they went down 39%. So each person who put a put in got $5 million from it. The day before 9/11. I would just suggest looking into this and not believing everything you hear, because we were certainly lied to. Thanks for listening.